On the live. My goodness, we are on the live and health show today and ready to roll. I am pretty sure you are. And we're going to roll with a lot of good stuff today. As you may have already seen from our thumbnail, we're starting a new season. And we are glad to be here and on your way. At this point, if you are joining, watching, I would kindly ask that you share the stream with your folks, with your family, friends, and loved ones, and let us roll together because this is important stuff. Hit the thumbs up, hit the like. Oh my goodness, I like that. Somebody just did that. My goodness, I like that. We appreciate you doing that for us. And today we won't waste time because my co-host is not really feeling great, and so I am not feeling great because we are one microphone. All right, so we're gonna power through quickly and ensure that we enjoy ourselves on today's show. If you actually are following, we have been doing a whole season of 12 episodes on cholesterol. Last week was the last episode. So this week we are switching gears into a new realm of episodes, new season, which is our season number 4. So if you are joining us today, you are welcome. My name is Dr. Oteng, and my co-host is
Dr. Gift Oteng.
Oh my goodness, the two Otengs on the live. The two Otengs on the live today, my goodness. All right, we are both pharmacists, and we are here to help each other, navigate life with a lot of information that will help us grow in health. We talk about health for the most part, but we basically a life and health show. So if any issue about life comes up and we need to talk about it, we will swing gear into that. I know that there's an issue that came up yesterday in the country that we originally come from, but today we are not going to talk about that. Maybe another time we will do that. But for now, we are hitting on diabetes episode. Season. It's a season for diabetes. And our topic, as you may have seen, is we're going to be talking about the risk factors and the types of diabetes, knowing that it is a common disease that is happening to a lot of our folks. A lot of people are getting diabetic, and we want to see how we can help each other, educate ourselves on what it is, the disease diabetes, what is basically what it is about, and also how we can beat it if we are inching towards already diabetic. So, welcome on board, my sweet co-host and wife. We'll have something to say before we
Yeah, I
move on.
think choosing this topic I was a little hesitant in picking diabetes because I feel like a lot of people know about it. But I think you mentioned that we really have to delve inside into it and really give more information, scientific based information, so that it can help people. Some people are not there yet. So, what can we do? What can we provide? What information can we share so that you don't find yourself being diabetic? Because it's a lot of issue when you are diagnosed with diabetes. But we are here also to encourage you that if you have diabetes, all is not lost. There's
It's
so
not the
many
end of the
things.
world, my goodness. It's not the end of the world.
There are
Yes.
so many things that you can do, so you shouldn't lose hope or lose heart. Some people, I remember somebody shared with me that the moment that she was diagnosed with diabetes, and she cried the whole day because she had seen what had happened to family members that were diagnosed with diabetes. Now we have information and we know that knowledge is power. So we are here to share our knowledge with you, and we hope that you will take into action and do something about it so that you can really straight through if you're already diagnosed with diabetes or if you don't want to find yourself being diabetic.
Oh my goodness, my goodness. I like I like the fact that it is not the end of the world if you even are already diabetic. It is the end when you give up, but as long as you don't give up, we are going to help you navigate through the maze of diabetes, including how to overcome high blood glucose levels, even when you have been using medications and stuff like that. So, we are going to start off from the basics and talk about what diabetes is actually about before we potentially do some of the more specific stuff. So, yes, so this is our topic for today. We're going to talk about diabetes and the types of diabetes and the risk factors. We're going to power through. There's a lot of information, but if we decide to, do it each little topic by little, we are going to stay here all year. So we're going to run through a little bit. Hopefully, when the video is up, what we do is after the live show, we also chop it up into little pieces just to kind of give it a little more focus. So if you don't get it, in the first time, you can go back to the channel and see the short episode on a specific part. And incidentally, I have actually made lots of videos on diabetes on this channel right from last year. And some of the things we're going to talk are the same things that were, in the video that we posted. This happens to be a live show where you can ask questions and contribute, but those ones are just there. Some of them have received 20,000 views, believe it or not. So those are pretty good information there, and we're going to share some of them here. But if you want, to delve deeper into some of the things, you can go back to our channel on Dr. Oteng on YouTube, or go to our website, droteng.com, and you're going to be linked on the top. So it's going to be a link there that you can follow for either our YouTube channel or even our podcast server, where you can also listen and watch on whatever podcast provider that you actually choose. So with that being said, let's move on. So our topic, as we said, this is the first episode. We're going to be going for 11 pieces, 11 episodes, 11 weeks of diabetes, which is a lot. Come on, man. 11 episodes. Because we did 11 episodes on cholesterol. And I believe that if you have been watching us, you are cholesterol shark. You know everything. If you miss anything, just go back and watch the shows or the short pieces that we put back on our channel. All right. So with that being said, we are going forward. So types of diabetes, and our show is organized into this. We are going to talk about the types. We're going to talk about specific types, including type 1, type 2, gestational, and another type, which is what we call diabetes insipidus. We're going to just share light on what they are all about, so you know what diabetes is in terms of the kinds of diabetes. And then we're also going to talk about
risk factors of diabetes.
risk
And we've
factors.
divided it into two risk factors. We have the non-modifiable risk and modifiable risk. So what are the things that you can adjust so that you don't get diabetes? And what are the things that you are born into it and there's not much you can do about it?
All right. So that is the show outline. And as we said, we're going to power through. So stick with us, share the stream, and make sure that other people get the information that we are providing today. All right. So with that out of the way, we start with the types of diabetes. And the first one, as I hinted, is diabetes insipidus. Basically, what diabetes insipidus is a kind of diabetes which does not involve glucose. When we talk about diabetes, everybody thinks about sugar, and most people even call it sugar disease. But this kind of diabetes has nothing to do with glucose or sugar. We just had to bring it up because we want to be complete on this show. So this diabetes is basically the issue of peeing. You just pee and pee and pee lots of water, no glucose. We know that one of the signs of diabetes is, going to pee all the time. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a form of diabetes itself, which is not, your sugar is not high or anything like that. It's just that one hormone is off balance. The hormone that is called antidiuretic hormone, ADH for short. It's off balance. And because of that, your body is not able to pick up the water that is in you. And so every water you drink or every water that your body picks up comes through from your kidneys, and you have to pee it out. So you can pee liters or gallons of water a day because of that particular disease. And so that is a diabetes that has nothing to do with sugar, and that is diabetes insipidus.
Yeah. And I think people they got misdiagnosed because the moment that they start peeing, so much, they just presume it may be diabetes. It may not. It can be something else going on with you.
All right. You mean it may be the glucose diabetes, right?
Right.
But yeah, it may be. This is the insipidus, the kind of diabetes that has nothing to do. It's not common, but obviously we just have to mention it just in case, so that you will say that we didn't talk about that. Yes. So that is one kind of diabetes, and the next kind is type 1. I'll have you study.
Yeah, so type 1 diabetes, I think, is autoimmune condition where the immune system does not work well. So the cells that produces insulin has been infected, like it's not working anymore. So mostly this one is found in young ones, like it show up very early stages, and young adults you can also find it. So when the cells in the pancreas that produces insulin is not
Destroyed.
functioning
Yeah.
well or is destroyed. Some people are born without any beta cells in the pancreas. So when that happens, that it means that your body is not able to produce insulin. So if your body is not able to produce insulin at all, then that would be termed as type 1.
That's type 1 diabetes. All right. All right. All right. So like she said, in this regard, you basically have no beta cell function. Your pancreas is not working. That's why it is usually detected in kids, because if you don't have it, then it starts off right off the bat, right as you are born. For the most part, it shows. Sometimes too, as you grow older, then it shows up. It doesn't have to be only in children, but it is a kind of diabetes where you have no ability at all to produce insulin because, like she said, your beta cells have been destroyed. It's an autoimmune disease. Your own antibodies, your own body, your own cells have attacked your pancreas, the cells that produce your insulin, and so they are destroyed. And because of that, you cannot produce insulin anymore. So these are the kinds of diabetes that are usually found in younger people. But again, it can appear in an older person because it can be destroyed when you are older.
Yeah, autoimmune.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's autoimmune. It's your own body. Basically, that's all it means. Your own body attacking itself. But the attack goes to your beta cells or your pancreas, where your insulin supposed to be is supposed to be made. So that is type 1 diabetes for you. So for in that case, in type 1 diabetes or diabetics, they have no function in terms of their pancreas for insulin production. So for them to be able to control their glucose levels, they have to have an external source of insulin. So right off the bat, type 1 diabetics are given insulin because they cannot control the glucose levels at all. Is there anything to
Yeah, so sometimes such people they carry the pump, the insulin pump with them. So or they have to inject themselves with the insulin because there is no way any other way. Because we know that if your pancreas is able to produce something, then you may be given medication so that it stimulates the pancreas to produce. But this time, the cells that produces the insulin is not there at all. So you need the raw insulin being injected into you. So people end up carrying the pump with them that supplies the insulin, or they have to inject themselves every now and then to get the insulin.
All right, so that is type 1 diabetes for you. And the next one is type 2 diabetes. That one, most people know. Most people know about type 2 diabetes. And I will start off with that. So type 2 diabetes actually starts off, for the most part, starts off as your body being insensitive to the insulin that you produce. So for you, you have the pancreas is working all right. Your beta cells, which is the cells that produce insulin, which make the insulin, they are working on producing the insulin all right. But for some reason, when they release the insulin, your body does not see the insulin, or your body becomes resistant to the insulin. So you are insensitive to the insulin that you are making. And I think we should backtrack a little bit. What is insulin? What does the insulin do?
And it's a form of hormone that needs to function to help absorb glucose into
Glucose
your
into the cells.
cells.
Yes, yes. I think you initially you cut it too short for them, but we have to go a little deeper. So she came back to it. It is the insulin makes you absorb, your body absorb the insulin. I'm sorry, the glucose that you have in your blood, which your body picked up from your gut, so that your cells will break it down. So the insulin has to be, the glucose has to be absorbed. But without insulin, the glucose linger in your blood. It's not picked up by your cells. It's not picked up by your cells. So for your body to work and to clean your blood from excess glucose running around, you have to have the hormone insulin around so that your cells will pick up the glucose that you picked up from your food, and then, as she said, it will become broken down for you to get the energy. So if you don't have working hormone called insulin, then whatever glucose that you pick up, you eat or you pick up in your gut, your stomach, whatever food you eat, the glucose that is picked up gets stuck in your blood, and high blood glucose is what we call diabetes, because your insulin is either not picking it up. Your insulin is either not sensitive enough to your cells for your cells to pick the glucose up, or it is not enough in the case of type 1. So that is what it is. So now with that out on the side, let's go back to what type 2 diabetes is again, just to make sure that we got ourselves clear. So type 2 diabetes is when it starts when your insulin, you are producing the hormone insulin, all right, like Gifty said, but unfortunately, your cells do not see the insulin as viable insulin. And because of that, you do not pick up the glucose. The glucose is lingering in your blood, and therefore you have high glucose levels in your blood, and therefore you have diabetes. That is what we call type 2 diabetes. That is insulin resistant. You want to say more?
Yeah, so and the cause of the pancreas not able or the beta cells not able to produce more insulin is not really known. It's not really known. So all that the scientists have found out that people that are not able to absorb the sugar from the bloodstream is because the beta cells are not functioning well, and they are not producing enough insulin, or whatever insulin they are producing is not sensitive enough for the cells to be for the glucose to be absorbed out of the blood.
All right. So basically, so that's exactly what it is. So you have to have a working, viable insulin so that when your cells pick up the glucose, they can pick up the glucose in the first place and be able to use it. If you're producing lots of insulin, but that insulin is not working, whether because your body is resistant to it, or for some reason your body is not producing enough, like he said, then in either case, you have type 2 diabetes. So, two things: you can produce a gallon of insulin, but if your body doesn't feel that is good insulin, it means it's resistant. The insulin you are producing is not working. So, that is the first case. And then there can also come to a place, or you can come to a place where, especially after you have produced lots of insulin and it's not working, your body stops even producing it. So you have less insulin now. In this same case, you have type 2 diabetes. So that is where type 2 diabetes actually comes from. You may have beta cell producing the insulin, but the insulin you are producing is not effective, or you are resistant to it. And we are going to explain why sometimes you become resistant to your own insulin, and that leading to you not even producing at all. Because kind of like antibiotics, right? If you take lots of antibiotic, take every disease you are prescribed antibiotics. Every disease you are prescribed antibiotics. Every disease you are prescribed antibiotics. A time comes that your body sees antibiotics is like, oh, this thing, I know it. I'm not going to let it do anything. Or actually, it's not your body. The bacteria that you are fighting, we say that this thing, I know it. I'm not going to make it, do anything to me. So you become resistant to the antibiotic. In the same way, if your body produces the insulin and your cells don't see that it's good, or your cells become resistant to it, at some point, your body is like, you can produce all you want. This is not going to do anything. And so it may even end up stopping the production. And so that is how you end up with type 2 diabetes. All right, so we're going to go to the next
Yeah,
one.
and before that, it's mostly found in adults.
Yes.
It's mostly found in adults, unlike the type 1, which is mostly with children or young adults. This one is mostly in adults. But of late, I think it's been discovered that some kids, some children are being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And I think because of the way the lifestyle and the kind of diet that is available for most kids, children are being found out that they also have type 2 diabetes.
And we are going to show why when we get to the risk factors. It's going to be more apparent why children these days are getting more diagnosed with type 2 diabetes when it only used to be in adults. And even in adults, it used to be only rich people. We were talking about it, right?
Yes.
It used to be rich people, especially in some communities. They said that, oh, sugar disease is for the rich. But now it doesn't matter who you are. You could be an adult, you could be rich or poor. As a matter of fact, it's affecting more poor people now. And also children are getting affected because of the risk factors that we are going to look at in a few more slides. So with that on the side, yes, we actually talked about the fact that your sugar is produced and you cannot basically take it because of type 2 diabetes. Sugar will linger around in your blood for no apparent reason. Well, there's a reason, right? the, the reason is that you cannot use your own insulin. It's not effective, or you are resistant to your own insulin. That is type 2 diabetes for you. All right, so the next one then is the fourth type of diabetes, which we call gestational diabetes.
And this one occurs when you're pregnant, right? It occurs in pregnant women. So when you're pregnant, your cells, your pancreas is not able to produce enough insulin. Then you end up with gestational diabetes. And when this happens, sometimes it got resolved on its own after you have your baby. Normally, after 3 months or so, it just resolved. Then you are back to normal. But it mainly happens when you're pregnant and your body tends not to produce enough sensitive insulin, and you end up with gestational diabetes.
All right. And then the other thing is gestational diabetes is a kind of, as we can tell, it's a kind of type 2 diabetes. The only thing is that it happens to be in a pregnant woman, and then it goes away. For the most part, like she said, for the most part, it goes away. But for some people, it may still stay if your risk factors, which we are going to hit on soon, are high. If you have higher risk factors for type 2 diabetes, then your gestational diabetes may actually turn into a type 2 diabetes and stay. Or for some people, as we are going to see, it becomes something that they deal with later on in life. So gestational diabetes is important to also see your doctor if you are pregnant. Some people are pregnant or they get pregnant and they refuse to see the doctors. They are like, I don't need any. As for me, I've had 2 babies already. I don't need to see the doctor. I'm fine. I go to the maternity and I'm pushed and everything is back. Yeah. We know that you are good. Yeah, we know you're good. You can push. You don't need epidural. You don't need, to be cut. You don't need C-section. No, you still got to see your doctor because pregnancy comes with it a host of other, things that are very serious, that could affect your life detrimentally, including, hypertension and stuff like that. But definitely you need to see your doctor if you are pregnant, and that whether or not you have diabetes in the family, gestational diabetes can come. So that is the fourth type of diabetes that we are talking about. So we are going to move forward then. The next one is we're going to talk about some of the risk factors of diabetes. And I like this side a lot. Yeah. And the reason why I like it, because when you talk about risk factors, you basically telling people what they can do to stop themselves or to prevent themselves from getting diabetes in the first place. I mean, the types, no matter what you do, they are there. They are the types. But what if you learn something that can help you prevent yourself from getting in any of the types of diabetes. So that's why I'm happy we're talking about this. And again, we have a video on our channel that talks about six top risk factors to prevent diabetes, and we're going to hit a few of them and then move forward. If you can stay with us after this, you go to Dr. Oteng's channel, and if you look on our playlist for diabetes, a host of videos on diabetes that you can watch. But with these series, we're going to touch on a lot of them anyway. So yes, risk factors. The first one we will call the modifiable risk factors, and I will have and you can start with that.
I think we start with the
Oh,
non-modifiable.
the non-modifiable risk factors. I'm going to put a comment that has just been pushed there. And then, yes, our brother say great topic. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Entry, for that. All right. So, yes. So we're starting off with the non-modifiable risk factors. And what are non-modifiable? Let's explain.
So
what
the first one will be family history.
No, let's explain what it is. What is non-modifiable?
Non-modifiable. It is a risk that you don't have any control over. Either you are born into it, or you didn't get to choose your family, right?
Oh my goodness.
You didn't get to choose your race, and you are aging. So those are non-modifiable risk factors.
So non-modifiable risk factors, like she said, are risks that you do not have anything to do about it. And then we have modifiable risk factors. And modifiable risk factors are the risk factors that you can change. You can modify it, basically, as it sounds. You can modify those risk factors. And so you can change something in your life that will prevent you from being diabetic in the future. That is the modifiable risk. The non-modifiable risk, like she said, you can choose your family if it is one. You can't do anything about it, But then again, if you are able to do something about most of the things about the modifiable risk, you probably will, get by without diabetes, even if you have those non-modifiable risk factors. So we will see it as we go forward. But definitely, there are certain things you have no control over. I didn't choose my skin color. I didn't choose my height. I'm as I am. And so if that's a risk factor, then that so be it, But if there are certain things that I can do, like the food that I eat, I can choose. I can't be forced to eat this kind of food because I'm from this place, So those things I can change.
But that food may be something that you're used to or you like.
Well, come on, man. That is why we say you have to modify your lifestyle in order to avoid being diabetic in the first place. So yeah, we're going to talk about them individually as we move on. And let's start with the non-modifiable risk factors. And I think you hinted one of them. You said
the first one that we're talking about is family history. Your family history.
Okay.
So sometimes some of us are very quick to answer a question, like you go to the hospital, the doctor asks you, do you have anybody in your family that has diabetes? You're like, no. Cancer? No. High blood pressure? No. You're so quick to answer it without really knowing the right answer. So you have to know your family history. So what family history, we can think of it like your mother, your father, your siblings, and maybe your aunt and your uncles, the close family ties. You have to know their history. Does any of them have diabetes? Are they diabetic? Or you don't know? Or maybe they don't know. So there are questions that you have to ask. If you don't know, you tell your doctor, I'll do a research. Because the reason why the doctors they ask you to answer those questions is so that they will pay attention to certain things. Because if you are from a specific family that are prone in getting diabetes, it's likely that you have the same kind of genes. So it's likely that you are going to also have diabetes. So if you don't know, it's good to do your research, my grandmother died of something. I'll ask my mother. Or what, my father is not around. What really killed him? So sometimes people tend to cover up the cause of death. So as information, knowledge is being abound, you have to try and know your family history. And sometimes too, it's not just the genes that you are connected to. Sometimes it's the behavior of your family members. Sometimes the way that they eat, the kind of foods that they eat, it's likely that because they eat certain food, that's why they have the diabetes. You may also, if you toe the same line, you may also have diabetes. So it's not just the
The genes.
genes, it's also the behavior and the way, the kinds of foods that you eat.
Oh my goodness, my goodness. Yeah. Family history for you. Family history. And I like the last point that you put in. Whenever we talk about family history as scientists, the first thing we are looking at is your genes. That's why she said that, your father, your mother, your siblings, your close relations, because if those people get that, or if those people have diabetes, then there's chance that you have the genes for diabetes too, type 2 diabetes too. So you got to be careful. But then she threw in that last point that it may not just be the gene expression, it may just be, the lifestyle expression that has been in the family for a long time. If all your family eats it's fufu, or potato, starchy foods, sugar, and you can tell that as for that family, that's all they eat, and they get diabetes, maybe the genes is there, but you could also tell that there's something else also. And so, much as you may have the genes, there are certain things else that contributes. And I think Lady Salome last time we did this show, I think long ago, maybe a year ago, she said that we may all have the genes, all right. The genes are not going to be expressed until the environment has made it easy for it to express itself. So some people have family history, all right, but they have been able to control their environmental situation so much that the gene expression is not there. So they are not showing the genes, even though they have the genes for diabetes. Everybody in their family has it, but they don't have diabetes. The reason is that they are not doing the things that will make the gene express itself as diabetic. And so you may carry the genes. We're saying that the fact that somebody in your family, your mom or dad, or your brother or sister had diabetes is not automatic that you're going to have diabetes. My goodness, I like that. It is not automatic. It's a risk factor, all right. It's in fact it's a higher chance there for you because your family has it, but it's not that you have to have it. You don't have to have it if you do some of the things that we're going to talk about in the modifiable risks. If you do a lifestyle change that is completely different from what they did, you may still have the gene for diabetes and you will not express that genes because genes are one thing, but the phenotype or the expression outward is yet another thing. And the phenotype usually depends on the environment, which is where you live, what you eat, the kinds of activities you're involved in. Those are the things that help bring up the gene that is hiding in your genome. And so we just don't want you to completely have, fear that, oh, my mom has it, oh my God, I'm going to have it. No, you don't have to have it. You can have it if you want easily because your mom has it. But you can say that I don't want to have it because my mom had it. And we'll show you the way out. My goodness. All right. Now, with that being said, we'll have another comment. If you are watching and you want to share a comment, please share with us. I have our brother Emmanuel shared another comment. He said that God bless you for this teachings and your time as well. Oh, bro, thank you. Thank you for acknowledging the time. Thank you. And last time, somebody also placed a comment on our last video. She didn't put it on the live, but I read it later after the live. That was a very encouraging statement. I think her name is Esther. So, Esther, if you are watching, I want to let you know that we read your comment and we are very happy. We are encouraged by the fact of your comment. She's saying that she has made certain changes in her life because of what she has been watching on our live shows. And so I'm happy that we are touching lives. So if you find any value in this video, share. You never know. You may not be diabetic, but share. Maybe somebody around or somebody who needs this information may find it. So I'm happy that our brother Emmanuel is sharing with us that we are doing a good thing. All right. So with that on the side, we're going to move on to our next type of risk factor, which is also still under the non-modifiable. Non-modifiable being that a risk factor that you cannot do anything about, you can change. And the second one is age, especially when you are over 45. When you're over 45. You want me to go?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so research has shown that people get diabetic more more often after the age of 45. Now, Gifty already gave you a caveat in the beginning that nowadays it's no more like that though, because if you see the kind of people who are getting the ages of people who are being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, it will baffle you sometimes. But it makes sense because of the sodas we are drinking, the kinds of food, the weight that we are putting on, which are some of the risks we're going to talk about. But then, if you are able to take care of yourself and not do anything, after age 45, your risk of getting diabetes increases, especially type 2 diabetes we're talking about here. Your risk for getting type 2 diabetes shoots up. And it makes sense because that's where most people get less active, and most of the cholesterol and everything has piled up, and now we are showing forth the symptoms. So yes, and again, as she said, you cannot do anything about age. If you are 45 and over, I don't think you can ask to go back to be less than 45 so that your risk for diabetes goes down. Can you do that, honey?
No,
Oh my
but
goodness.
like we said last time, age is just a number.
Age is just a number.
So if you want your system, or if you want to feel like you are really 45, because sometimes some doctors will do some calculation and say that, oh, you are 75, but the way that you live in your life and the numbers coming from your blood work and the results is like somebody who is 50. So sometimes the way that you live your life wouldn't put you over 45, because you want to remain forever 21.
My goodness, I like that. Forever 21.
So sometimes with the age, I think we used to say that it's some behaviors will catch up with you with time. So sometimes you don't see anything. You are just drinking your sodas. You are still doing your regular stuff. You are eating your carbohydrates, your high sugar content, everything you're doing it. And you are like, oh, I'm young. I'm okay. I'm doing okay. My blood work is on point and everything. But as you age, it catches up with you. So some behaviors before you get to 45, you can make certain changes so that when you get there, you are there all right. The number shows on your birth certificates that you're 45, right? But in actual fact, the way that you express yourself, the way that you live your life, the way that your lab results will show that you are not really as somebody who is not taking care of themselves, results will be because you are taking care of yourself. So age is a non-modifying factors, but the behavior and the way that you do your things would determine whether you are aging quickly. Because sometimes your cells, your gene cells can shorten. That's how they determine your actual age, like your cell age that they call it. So so it determines because of your behavior. So you can do things differently from what your family members did.
My goodness. Yeah. So yes, age is non-modifiable risk factor, but according to Gifty, you can refuse to grow. In the Bible, somebody refused to grow. I think, I forgot his name. This guy who was given a promise, and after Caleb, yeah, after leading the people of Israel, when everybody said that the giants will swallow us, and he said no, we can overtake this land. When he got his portion of the land, when they got the promise, he had to be there. He had to be old enough to be there to claim his inheritance. So he refused to grow, according to the Bible. That guy refused to grow. And so you can refuse to grow. You can be growing in numbers, but you still look the same. I've seen people, who never change. You will see them 10 years. There's one family member that I saw yesterday. I hadn't seen him for a long time. And when I saw him, he hadn't changed a bit. Still same height, same weight, so physically active, everything. Height doesn't usually but the aging is really not there. And so yes, age is just a number if you make it so. But if you want to make everybody see that you are over 45, you can easily show it by the way you eat, by the way you carry yourself, by whether or not you move or you become sedentary, by whether or not you actually believe in your in your health, or saying some people they just naturally call themselves to be sick because they feel like they are grown old. I say, oh, hey, I'm 50, that's right, I have knees. No, the fact that you're 50 doesn't mean you should have knee problem, bro. My goodness. You don't have to have a knee problem. No, the fact that you're 60 doesn't mean you have to have a disease. No. Some people may have it, but you got to promise yourself that I am getting the number 60, but I'm feeling 40, I'm feeling 20, and you can still be around with health. And if you do that, then even though we are telling you that if you are over 45, according to science, your risk for getting type 2 diabetes is increased, you can still defy that risk, even though it's non-modifiable risk, as they say. All right. So thank you for bringing that up. Now, with that, let's move on because you have a lot to share. And if you are watching, you have a question, you want to contribute, don't hesitate to bring that up. So the next one, the next non-modifiable risk factor is your race or ethnicity, where you are born, where you are from. You cannot change that, you know. And incidentally, according to research, people of African descent, whether you are African American or African, of as long as your origin is from Africa, you have a higher incidence of diabetes. Native Americans also have a higher incidence of diabetes. Hispanics also have a higher incidence of diabetes, and that is something that is, it is found that it happens more. Basically, diabetes, type 2 diabetes usually happens more with these groups of people. And again, it is a class effect. It is something that we see. It's about more people who are from that place, more people who are from that race, but it doesn't have to be everybody from that race. So we can be, classified as a group, because you are black, you have high incidence or risk for getting diabetes, but it doesn't mean you have to have diabetes because you are black. I hope it's
That's
yeah.
clear.
So
Yep.
it's a risk factor, all right? It's non-modifiable. You can't change it. Like I'm saying, there's no way I can change to be a white. I mean, I could probably do like Michael Jackson, become become light skinned and like white, but that doesn't change my genes. That doesn't change my socioeconomics. You see, and so um, you can't do anything about that risk factor, but then there's certain things you can do. You can do certain things about, which we're going to talk about soon. You want to add anything to that?
Oh, I think we're good.
All right. And so as we move forward, we have another comment. And let's see, a comment from Reverend Paul Asante. He says that may the Lord help us to make changes, particularly in our diet. Great teaching. God bless you, or blessings. Thank you, Rev. I'm happy you are also watching. I am so happy when my reverend ministers watch because we want you guys to be around forever. You are leading us to heaven. You don't want you to go anywhere. My goodness. Like that. Oh, he has another one. Let's add it to it. And then he says, oh, doctor, why is it that Africans have higher risk for most of these diseases? And I like that question so much. I like that question so much. I will attempt to answer it, but I want to add to it. I mean, Rev, that I asked the same question while I was in school. I thought that we were actually being discriminated against in research because every disease, trust me, it's not just diabetes, every disease state, I should say most, there may be a few ones that Hispanics may top Africans or people who are of African origin. But most diseases, when we were in school, we would tell you that black race is a risk factor. And I asked myself that question. As I said earlier, in the beginning, I thought that maybe it's not true. But then I understood later on after school, during practice, that it is not so much a race effect. It's actually a socio-economic effect. So because of our socio-economics, our finances, our economics, our culture, the way we do our things, those things predispose us to certain risk more than other races. And that is why we tend to have certain diseases more. For example, I'll just use one just simple example. The way we eat, most of us, especially those who were born in the United States, most of us from African or African origin, eat a lot of fast foods. No matter how old, fast food joints are built in our neighborhoods. We drink the sodas. If you go to grocery and people are shopping, just watch some of the things that we buy, except for the elite among us, people who have been educated more, who are usually paying attention. But because of our socioeconomics, because we don't have the money, because of economic conditions, we have been relegated to the poor diets. And so those poor diets, poor access to playgrounds and exercise facilities that we can go to gyms, people who have made it are able to build gyms in their own basement. How many people can do that if your socioeconomics is that bad? And so the socioeconomics have actually become a class effect for some of the black race. Not that our genes are bad. Our genes, in fact, are some of the top notch because we dealt with a lot of elements, and our genes have been actually refined to resist a lot of things. But our socioeconomics is what is fighting us. The socioeconomic conditions that we face has done that. So if you see elite, group of people who belong to the black or African origin, who are taking themselves seriously. Some people may be elite, but they don't check up, they don't go to their doctors, they don't do. Then anything can happen to them. But the people who live like they have the access to the healthcare facilities, they take care of themselves. They do their colonoscopies. A lot of people in the African area, we don't do our colonoscopies, we don't do our breast mammograms. Some people go, and because they don't have insurance, they're like, oh, I don't have insurance, and they don't go. But other people will take care of those things. And so diseases tend to show up more in us because of our socioeconomics. So yes, I'm really happy you brought that up, because it's not that we are not good in terms of our body makeup. We are, but the socioeconomics is what is hurting us. And that is why people like us, you who have the pulpit, when you have the pulpit and you give to people to educate our folks, you are doing them a lot of good. Some people don't even think it's important to have an annual visit to the doctors because they are not sick. Some people will stay at the living, their jobs, and they just don't care because they don't get sick. They think like you only see the doctor when you have an infection. All those things are things we can affect among our people that will make a lot of difference. You want to add anything?
Yeah, and I think the African Americans here, their foods, they call it soul foods.
Soul
Soul
foods.
foods. So the soul foods is such that they it's more greasy, the chicken, the
The
fried
fried chickens,
chickens,
a lot of fried
so
chicken.
the diet itself is not good. And because we are consuming a lot, we tend to be more prone to such diseases. So apart from socioeconomics, the diet of the culture is so different. And sometimes too, from where we come from, is more carbohydrates.
Carbohydrate, yes.
The carbohydrates break down for the sugar, right? The simple sugar. The simple sugar is in our bodies, in the bloodstream, and you need the insulin to work on it. So if we are exposed to a lot of sugar in the blood over and over and over for a long period of time, we overwork the insulin to the point that it becomes very resistant. As unlike the other race, their food is not solely carbohydrates. The sugar content is a little lower. The
A lot
high
lower.
cholesterol, the cholesterol level,
It's less.
so the diet is what is really killing us. I think I asked the same question. So when you are in class and they are teaching this topic, and almost every topic that they pick up, they say that the highest risk, the higher risk rate is like African Americans. And I'm like, oh, seriously, these people are discriminating against us. But it's a fact. And sometimes to the neighborhood that we live in, you can't just go jogging early morning. You cannot be active like that. We encourage people to step out, walk and do all these activities. If you live in a neighborhood that you don't have access to safety, like you walk outside and you hear the shootings and stuff like that, so there's so many things that kind of gear towards against us, that we are not able to make the right choices to help us live a healthy lives.
My goodness, my goodness. I like that question. That was a beautiful question. I think it's going to come up again because every disease is going to show. But that being said, as you have rightly pointed, we don't have to be a statistic. We may be classified as a socioeconomically or as a race-wise or as an ethnic group. And this is not just to African Americans. Hispanics also are classified a lot in these diseases. And American Indians, same thing. It was also the same, the culture of living on a plantation. There's a lot of alcohol use there. There's sedentary lifestyle, a lot of sugar use. And so if diabetes is found more, it makes sense. It's not like because there's something wrong with the genes. No, it's the socioeconomics and the culture and our diet, as Gifty has pointed out. So in that case, if we say that your race, being black or being Indian or being Hispanic, uh, is a risk factor, you can say minus me. My goodness, right? You can say minus me. And that is because you can do some of the things that make you, though you may be part of the group, it may, separate you from the things that cause the disease in the group. And that is where we are going to go to with the modifiable risk factors. We are going to talk about the modifiable risk factors. These are the factors that, my goodness, these factors we can change. I can change my race. I can change where I'm from. I can change where I was born. I can change my accent. My goodness. But I can change something. These are the modifiable risk factors. The factors that we can change so that we don't get diabetes or we don't get prone to diabetes. And the first one is being overweight. Being overweight is an increased risk factor for diabetes. So, as our lady is pinching her belly, and it's not just her belly, but every part of her body, it's definitely showing that she is overweight. And I mean, we just talked about the fact of the ethnic group. I was watching, I think there was a competition in some of the southern colleges, and they showed a clip on Facebook that I saw. And the people that were walking, because there were most of the schools were, I think it's all black colleges. I could see obesity upon obesity. Apart from the students themselves who were dancing, the people who were walking alongside to watch, all of them, I could tell obesity or being overweight, morbidly overweight or being obese. If I thought about it, I would have probably brought it back, but then I can't show it because it's against their privacy. Yeah, so being obese or being overweight, it's a risk factor for getting diabetes. So we don't have the numbers for you to say that you have to be this pounds, but if you see your doctors, you have to have your ideal body weight. If you are over your ideal body weight, which your doctor will tell you, then you are overweight. And then beyond overweight, you become obese. Beyond being obese, you become morbidly obese. That is, you are so huge that you can't even carry yourself. And being overweight itself, before you become even obese, just being over your normal weight is a risk factor for diabetes.
And being overweight, I think the way that we can also calculate is you have to know your weight and your height. And there is a calculation, you have to know your BMI.
Your BMI,
So
yes.
if you are too far from the normal range, then you are overweight. When you are too far, then you are obese. When you are way to the end of the scale, then you are morbid obese. So overweight is a huge risk factor. And not only that, being overweight, some people can be overweight, but normally the waist circumference is what they use to calculate when they are checking whether your risk is higher when it comes to diabetes. So your waist, I know the man is supposed to be 40 inches. So when your circumference around your waist is 40 inches as a man, then you have a higher risk of getting diabetes. And with the women, I think it's 35
more
inches.
than 35 inches.
So when you're over 35 inches, then your risk is higher. You are considered overweight, and your chance of getting diabetes is increased.
And the other thing is, you may not even be huge like the lady that we showed, but as long as you pack your weight around the belly, your waistline, the waist circumference is what we're talking about. So if you are watching, I have the tape with that. Where did the tape go? The tape measure, you can use a tape measure yourself at home and then measure. If you put the tape around your waist or your belt, where you put your belt around your waist. If you're a man and it's your belt, you put it at over 40, then it means that you have a higher increase of getting diabetes. So that is a risk factor right there. And this is a modifiable, so you can change that. Why? Because you can lose the weight and it can come less than 40. And if you're a woman and your waist circumference, like this woman is trying to button her jeans, her pants, and it's not going, if it is more than 35, you also have a higher incidence or rate or risk for getting type 2 diabetes. Simple as that. And so if you don't want to get type 2 diabetes, we already told you you are 45, you're already a high risk. Your family history, you probably have a family member with diabetes. And then you have a weight which is higher.
Your race.
Your race is also an increased risk. Then you have a weight which is this way. At least this one you can change. The first three things you can change. But if you can change this so that your waist circumference becomes less than 35 as a woman, then you are definitely increasing your your chance of avoiding diabetes, even if you have a family history. So that is why it's important. And then we say that the risks are also additive. Well, I should say synergetic. It's synergetic. If you have your family history, you have overweight, you are overweight, you have the ethnic group or race. All these things are adding up for your risk. And so if you have the chance to lose your weight around your waist, bro, you got to take that chance because everything is adding up to increase your chance of getting diabetes. But you got the power to control this one. If you're a woman being over 35 inches around your waist, and if you're a man being over 40 inches around your waist, research has shown that you have a higher incidence or high chance of getting diabetes, type 2 diabetes. And so you can change that risk by yourself because it's a modifiable risk factor. All right. So
yeah, and I think we are focusing more on the circumference because that's where the pancreas is.
The factor also for the resistance, that's where it is.
Yeah. So if your pancreas is all covered with fat because you are storing all this excess fat in your waist, that's why you are not able, you can pinch yourself and you know that a lot of fat over there. It means that the ability of your pancreas to produce more insulin is reduced. And in that case, it's likely that you are going to be resistant because you're not producing enough insulin. So if you try to lose the weight in your mid area, then your chance of getting diabetes is reduced.
It's reduced. And also the fat cells, the adipose tissue, those are the ones that contribute to the resistance. If you have more fat cells, insulin doesn't work as good. So the fat cells that are building up, making that area big, that also contributes to the resistance, the insulin resistance. That's why your insulin doesn't work. And that's why this is actually a specific risk for type 2 diabetes. So you may not even be too big, but if your waist circumference is big, if the belly fat is a lot, then you are going to be more resistant to your own insulin, and therefore your chance of getting diabetes is high. All right, in the interest of time, let's move on and see what next. So the other modifiable risk factor, another risk factor that you can change is physical inactivity. In other words, if you are a sedentary person who stays all the time in one spot, no exercise, no movement, you chill, just lying down watching TV shows and no movement, nothing, your risk factor for diabetes, type 2 diabetes, also skyrockets. So it increases. So imagine you were obese and you also don't go around, you don't have any exercise, double whammy. So, and then all the other risks come on top will even make it worse.
Yeah, I think the video that you showed, that lady is really exercising.
Oh, this is no good exercise. You're right. She's trying to lift some weight.
I think that's a 2-pound weight or 1 pound.
Weight, but oh my goodness, that's
She's not doing much.
That's a lazy exercise right there. Yeah. So being sedentary, she's stuck in one place. I would be happy if she was running at least alongside, lifting those. But at least she's trying. She's better than somebody who has no weight, right?
But I think she's also eating and listening to music. So
eating and listening to
music. I don't
music.
know whether the heart is pumping or doing the activity.
And the kind of diet. That's what popcorn with all that salt and butter. that doesn't work out. She's not burning enough calories right there. So basically what we're trying to point to you is that you have to have an active lifestyle. The person that exercises the more is the person that saved themselves from several kind of these problems. Now, when you studies have shown that when you exercise, when you act on your muscles, the muscles become more sensitive. Your body becomes more sensitive to your insulin. So you may be growing all right, but because of exercise, your muscles can pick up all your glucose because your insulin is working. Because of exercise, your muscle cells are able to identify and pick up the glucose when the insulin is released. And so, exercise or physical activity is something that helps to prevent diabetes from setting in. So, yes, you may have a family history, the genes are there. But if you are doing regular exercise, muscle exercises, cardio exercises, yeah, the gene may be inside your body, but it cannot be expressed. Why? Because you are overcoming those risk factors with this kind of modifiable risk that you are actually taking charge of, right?
Yeah, so the circulating sugars in your blood are
Can be picked up,
being absorbed
being used up, yeah.
through exercise.
Exercise.
So your chance of getting diabetes is significantly reduced.
Because the energy is used. It's not lingering in the blood. It's like you ate and you are sitting down, the sugar is there, you are not working. So definitely that's diabetes. But if you are working out like this, then whenever you eat, because your body has been trained to pick up glucose from the blood, your body does it quick, and then your blood sugar level is low. And so you don't get diabetes. So exercise, I'm telling you, one of the best things that can happen to you is exercise. Though as you grow, it may be more difficult to exercise, but you have to include it because I don't think there's anything in this life that is easy. Everything is difficult, but we still manage to do all the things that we do. And so we have to definitely keep on doing the right things so that we are around with health for a long time. All right, so we can go for it. And so, with exercise too, as we said last time, you can't just exercise once a week and think that it's enough. You got to have a routine, and more frequent exercises are the ones that reduce your risk for diabetes because you train your body to pick up glucose whenever you use them. And so it has to be more frequent when you do that. And then we will move on then. The next one, which is also modifiable risk factor, is unhealthy diet or your diet. And you want to talk about that a little
Yeah, I
bit?
think we touched on it already. The kinds of foods that we eat, the processed foods. The processed foods is so processed to the point that you eat it, it get into your system and straight to your bloodstream. So it doesn't really take its time for it to be absorbed slowly because of the state at which we are eating the food. So if all the foods that we are eating they are processed, it's likely that we are increasing our chance of getting diabetes. So
Definitely.
the kinds of foods that we pick is very, very, very important.
My goodness,
Yeah.
my goodness, my goodness, my goodness. Processed foods. Processed foods are your way to diabetes. If you like to eat processed foods, everything you eat is processed. And let's break it down. Processed food is foods that have been broken down already before you eat. And these examples we are seeing, if you are eating a donut, there's sugar that has been added. Added sugar is a processed food because it's been processed from cane or whatever source they got it and put it there. So when it's in your belly, your body sees it and it picks it up right away. There's no delay. So processing right there. Any other food, even if it's bread, it's processed. White bread, it's been taken from the flour. And the flour has been, first of all, it had been grinded or milled, and then it has been refined to make it nice and white and clean. All the fiber has been removed, processing right there. You eat it, and right there, boom, your blood sugar goes up. If it is a meat and it's processed, same thing. Everything you eat that is processed, sweet, everything that is sweet, everything that has been passed through multiple channels of processing to make it before you eat it is processed. And those release sugars quick into your into your bloodstream, and thereby increase your chance of getting diabetes. And so people who don't have diabetes, but who only binge on processed foods have an increased risk for diabetes. And so, if you eat the real whole foods, if it was a bread or bagel that you eat, you buy a whole grain, whole grain sauce so that it is not completely mashed up into its constituent ingredients. You can still feel the grains in there. So when it goes in your belly, your body will take time before it can pick up the glucose. That way, your glucose levels don't spike the moment you eat. But if you're eating a sweet donut, oh man, it goes, my goodness, it goes into your bloodstream just as you put it in your mouth. your sugar gets absorbed right there from your mouth. It starts going down. Why? Because it's been so broken down into the lower level glucose that is, I mean, sucrose, and then broken into your glucose soon as you grab it into your belly. So those are the things that lead to diabetes in terms of diet, sugar itself, and then processed foods. Those can be changed. It's modifiable, a risk factor that you can stop. You can decide from today that I'm not going to eat any processed foods, and you can do it. Start going to the whole food stores and buying your full grains. So, anything that you eat, you can buy the unprocessed now, but it takes a little effort. Like for us, we have to drive a few miles longer to get the not processed foods, but that's what it takes. If you want the easy ones, then the convenience store is right there. It's there. Everything is processed. You take it, you eat it, and you get sick. you know but we have to invest in the things that are important to us.
So, in order for you to be able to identify the healthy ones, you just have to buy foods that are in their natural state.
In their natural state.
So it's not processed. So if it's in its natural state, it's likely that it's going to take a little bit for it to be digested in your system. And the sugar is not just going to be dumped into your system to the point that you are so overwhelmed with sugar that your insulin have to start working. And it works so hard, so fast, so hard. And it's always on the higher level. So if you keep putting in the refined sugars and all the processed foods, it means that you are overworking your pancreas. The beta cells are being overworked. And all that it takes is that it's time, right? It's going to get to a point that it becomes very resistant. That after you eat the sugars, now your body is not able to break down. And when it's not able to break it down, it's likely that it's be floating in the bloodstream. And that's what diabetes occur. So try and find foods in their natural state.
In their natural state.
And the greens, and the greens and the fruits, the fibers. Try and incorporate that in your foods so that you stay away from the processed and the refined. With the donuts that is showing, sometimes some of them is glazed.
Mm-hmm.
I tasted that not long ago, and I'm like, what? It's like you can really taste the sugar because the glaze is all sugar, and they put it on top of carbohydrates.
The donut is even sweet also. They have sugar in
and
already.
The sugar, you can't believe it, is so much that if you binge on such foods, your chance of getting diabetes is very, very high. And on top of it, you're going to do the coffee, and sometimes I don't know whether they close their eyes to pump the sugar in.
And well, you got to ask.
I'm like, why? It's like you have to be specific when you are ordering, right? You cannot just say that you want sweet and milk. They close their eyes and pump.
If you say cream and sugar,
they will just
saying
pound
the
it.
numbers, then of course they wouldn't make you feel the tongue on your tongue that is sweet. You said sweet, so they got to be sweet, right?
And you taste it, and you're like, seriously?
Yeah.
You people are selling diabetes right here. So you have to be conscious on what you put in your body. Definitely you are exposing yourself from getting diabetes if you pound on the refined sugars.
Refined sugars. That is very, very important. Now, when we say eat foods in their natural state, some of these things come natural. Last week, I wanted to put a challenge on our community about people eating starchy foods, and the challenge, I probably should do it this week. That eat a salad before your fufu, before your dumpling, if you're a Jamaican, before your rice, before what are some of the other starchy foods? Your yams, before your potatoes, whatever starchy food. Before your plantain, whatever starchy food. I'm going to put a challenge for you this week. Just start it off with a non-processed food like a salad or any of these things that we are showing, and see. Hopefully, it will fill you up a little bit before you add the white processed foods. And by the way, fufu is processed food, right? Especially if you bought the powdered, potato. It's been processed. Potato has been mashed into a powder. It's very well broken down. So it's a processed food. And so if you are eating it, you got to know that you are eating something that could eventually lead to some harmful thing. I don't want to say that, but unfortunately, I got to say it. So, what you could do is to do it maybe once a week. But then again, even that, cut the amount and the size of your starchy foods like rice, fufu, dumpling, cassava, plantain, what else, burgers, whatever it is. Start it off with a green, non-processed food, and hopefully it will fill you first, so that you won't have to use a lot of those processed foods to fill you up, so that you will not become your risk for diabetes will not increase. So definitely let's watch that, because this is a modifiable risk factor that we can modify. If you don't modify this, then you have no control by anything. These things you can change. The rest that are not modifiable, we agree you can't do anything about it. But let's do what we can when it is stuff that we can do something about. So with that, let's move on. Now, the other risk factor for diabetes is type 2 diabetes is gestational diabetes. So we mentioned gestational diabetes as a type of diabetes, but then we also said that it usually resolves a couple of months after you have the baby. So that is a matter of fact. Even though for some people they may progress, but then it becomes a risk factor if it resolves, then it becomes a risk factor for you in your later life. So the fact that you had gestational diabetes when you had your baby as a woman is a risk factor for you to get type 2 diabetes in the future. In other words, if you were pregnant, you got diabetes, watch out and watch yourself. Make sure you do all those things that you got to do, because if not, you can end up with type 2 diabetes, right? I think that's just what it is for gestational diabetes being a risk factor for type 2 diabetes. All right. And then the last, I think, risk factor is, I think we talked about unhealthy diet.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think you
this is
meant
cholesterol. I
cholesterol.
meant cholesterol. This was supposed to be cholesterol. It's not unhealthy diet again. So if you have a high cholesterol levels in your blood, the thing we just finished talking about last week, then you also have a high incidence of diabetes. Your risk for diabetes, type 2 diabetes in particular, increases if your cholesterol levels are high.
Yeah, so like if your triglycerides are high and your HDL is low, the triglycerides can be broken down to sugars in your system. So if they are high, it's likely that your chance of getting diabetes is also increased.
My goodness, my goodness. So you have high triglycerides leading to increased sugar or glucose levels in your blood, and therefore a risk for diabetes. So definitely watch your cholesterol levels and ensure that you don't shoot it up against what you need it to be. And if you miss any of our cholesterol shows, if you just go back, even last week, you will see a video on cholesterol and binge on them, because controlling your cholesterol incidentally helps you also to avoid diabetes. All right, and let's see what else we have. I think we are done then, right? Because this is where we started from. And with that being said, let's see what we have for next week. I was thinking that we will go there. I think, let me see. I think I went all the way back. So yeah, we are going to be talking a lot about everything diabetes for the next 7 episodes. We are 11, I mean, episodes. We are going to be dealing with the topic of diabetes. And next week, what we're going to talk about is managing your blood sugar levels. You may not even be diabetic. We want to show you how to eat such that your blood sugar levels don't go up the roof. And with that, this video is not encouraging you to do this. We are just saying don't do this, actually. Pizza is not supposed to be something that is used to manage your blood sugar levels, but we want to tell you not to eat those until we meet on next week. I think that is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the role of diet in managing your blood sugar levels. If you are diabetic, even better. If you are not diabetic, also better because it will prevent you from becoming diabetic in the first place. And that's what we have for next week.
And I think you mentioned that your friend called you to talk about him being diagnosed with pre-diabetes.
Pre-diabetes, yeah.
Yeah,
So
so you may not be diabetic, but you may be diagnosed with pre-diabetes. That there are certain things that you can do differently so that you don't find yourself being diabetic.
definitely. And since you brought that up, pre-diabetes is when the doctor tells you that, hey, your blood sugar level is inching up. Be careful because you are in the before diabetes state. That's basically what it means, before diabetes. But you can always reverse it when you are at that state. And so when we start talking about the diet, if you have been told that you are pre-diabetic, don't lose hope. Join us, and then we will discuss what are some of the things, the diets that you should eat to be able to reverse your pre-diabetes. And I know a question will be like, can you reverse diabetes? We are going to answer all those in our next show as we move forward. Do you have anything to say? Well, we want to thank you so much for joining and keeping it engaging with all those comments that came up. We are so delighted to have you all joining us today. And we're about to close the show. Just want to make sure that I click through all the comments. And then I'm sure that you saw all the questions and the contributions that came. And so we will say, Beloved, we wish above all things that you prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And God bless.